Well, let's get more on this developing story from our global affairs analyst, Marco Vincenzino. So, Marco, predictions are coming in, of course, then, of Recep Tayyip Erdogan's party, the ruling party, losing their majority in Parliament. What's your reaction to that news? What do you think about it?
Most polls were pointing into that direction, and it seems to be materializing, more or less. For its opposition, remember, still, even though he may have not gained the majority, the supermajority that he wanted, he still has over 40% of the vote. That's a considerable amount. But yet there's over 50% that didn't vote for him. The key thing is that it's the opposition, the over 50%, they're not a united, coherent opposition. But one thing that they were united against was preventing Erdogan and his party from getting a supermajority to be able to change the constitution into a presidential system that would see the concentration of power into the presidency. So for the last 13 years, Erdogan's party has been on a roll, victory after victory. At least for now, this seems to put a halt on that process.
And so the ruling AK party have been in power for 13 years. How much of a loss do you think it will be for them? You touched on it just there about the presidential powers and the powers that they would be able to essentially invoke and set new laws if they did have a supermajority. But how much of a loss do you think it will be for them now not to have this majority?
It's going to force them to have to create a coalition government, which they've never done before. They've always ruled as a majority party. A coalition government will prevent them from putting that presidential system that they wanted to implement. Probably what's likely to happen is they may form a temporary coalition government and then go not too far into the future into a new election with the hope to gain that supermajority. But between now and then is quite a period of time.
So opposition parties feared that Erdogan would rewrite the constitution and claw more powers for the party, for the AK party, should he have got a supermajority. It's polarised a lot of the country, hasn't it? Do you think that Turks want to change in the country?
When you say Turks want to change in the country, you have to look at the electorate. In this sense, it's a very polarised society. You have that 40, 41, 42 possibly percent, maybe a bit more, that are supporting Erdogan in a very strong way. It still leaves a majority, over 50%, opposing him. But that 40 to 42, 43% that support him are very much united. That opposition of that over 50% are very much fragmented between the Republican Party, the CHP, and the Nationalist Party, the NMHP, and other parties afterwards, more minority parties. So Turkey remains a polarized society. The AK party of Erdogan has managed to maintain a majority practically of unobstructed rule for nearly 13 years. This is a huge blow to them, not to be able to dominate in a majority way. But we'll see. If they're forced to form a coalition government, how long will that government last? Their idea is to be able to go to elections fairly soon and to try to consolidate a majority to be able
the opposition parties, the People's Democratic Party, the HDP. It was a massive achievement for them to get 10% of the vote. Do you think many people predicted this? And what do you think it will mean for them in Parliament? How much influence do you think they'll have?
Well, there was the polls. Once again, we go back to the polls. The polls were saying they were borderline 10%.
Sure.
And then the polls and the Conservative government a very close vote, and there was an undercurrent that the polls didn't spot, and that undercurrent obviously led to a majority in the UK government. Cameron won an absolute majority. In this case, there was not sure, between 10 and 11%, but it seems, according to the initial results, they broke that 10% threshold. That'll give them the ability to force the AK party to need to form a coalition government, like I said, for the first time in 13 years. It's a huge achievement for them.
A pro-Kurdish party having an effect in Parliament?
Not easy for many Turks, because obviously many of them remember conflicts dating to the late 1970s. Over 35,000 people and more died during that conflict. And the head of that movement, Öcalan, is currently in prison in Turkey. And there's many Turks who lost family, who lost friends, who lost loved ones in that conflict. And it's polarized Turkish society. So for many Turks to see a Kurdish party break that 10% threshold is not a very easy thing. Mm-hmm. It's overcoming many psychological it's changing as a society. And for a Turkish party to have achieved the 10% is one important element in that process of transformation and coming to terms with the new realities of a new Turkey. A very diverse society. It's not a monolithic society. And today's results seem to somewhat have confirmed that.
So should the results take away the majority for the AK party, losing Erdogan his right to rule essentially on his own terms, what do you think that will do to his image as wanting to be the dominant political figure in Turkish history?
Well, he is regardless of today's results, he's the most dominant figure in Turkish politics since Kemal Atatürk, the founder of modern Turkish Republic. So regardless of for 13 years, he's dominated in a way that no one of his predecessors have done it before. So the process so far temporarily seems to have been halted. If he's able to go through another election, if the AK party declares another election, because there's a minority, it doesn't have the supermajority that it needs, and it's having difficulty in forming a government, he will try his best possible to realign everything in a way to win the next election with a supermajority. So in other words, Erdogan is not down. He's far from down. This is a huge, huge setback from him. But it's not that it prevents him from moving forward. There may be another election. If there's another election, we can't particularly predict the results.
Now in Turkey, I mean, a lot of people came out to vote in this election. More people have been engaged in this election political process in Turkey than they have for years. So it shows a lot about how party politics is very apt and very sort of the movement now within the country, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a society that's it's a young society. It's a society that's advanced majority. Put it this way. From when Erdogan gained power in 2003, the average per capita income in the country was roughly around the $2,000 range. Today, it's in $10,000 range. Okay. The advances in Turkish society have been enormous. So the fact that they've been achieving victory after victory is not surprising. The economy has slowed down in the last couple of years. So that may be, one may attribute it, that is the fact that he didn't get the supermajority to the economic situation. But still, as a person, as a personality, for many Turks throughout the country, he's an enormous figure. He's a mythical figure. You can't count him out just because of today's results.
What do you think the current state of Turkey's relationship is with the EU?
Not well. If you look at the its ability to offer membership to other countries. With Turkey specifically, the fact that it's a population of over 80 million, it's a Muslim majority country, that's played a role in Europe's consideration in terms of taking Turkey as a member. But I think the fact that there's been so many difficulties in the European Union, so many problems in terms of the economic situation, Turkey's ability to join the European Union is not likely to be achieved, not in the short term, not possibly in the long term. But its ability to engage with Europe, its ability to be a partner of Europe remains extremely important. There's various factors at play, economically, politically. You also have the security issue. Remember, there's a war in Syria. Turkey is hosting over 2 million refugees. Other Syrian refugees are going to North Africa and going through Italy and going into Greece. So Turkey still has a lot of leverage with Erdogan is a dominant personality, despite today's results. He's a personality they're going to have to deal with for the foreseeable future. So the Europeans, for the most part, I think, realize that more or less there's continuity in their policy with Turkey.
Marco Vincenzino, thank you very much indeed for that. Great to talk to you, as always.
Thank you.